Հարգելի բարեկամներ, Սփյուռքի ձայնը հեռուստահանդեսը դարձյալ ձեզ հետ է։ Նյու Յորքում տեղի ունեցավ Վարդան անձասպետներ եւ դուստրեր կազմակերպության 94-րդ Ավակ Դահլիճ եւ 72-րդ Kerakouyn Zhoghov համագումարը, որը ավարտվեց հանդիսավոր ճաշկելույթով։ Այժմ սիրով ուզում եմ ձեր ուշադրությանը ներկայացնել իմ պատրաստած ակնարկը այդ մասին, ինչպես նաեւ մեր արած հարցազրույցը թուրք պատմաբան գրող Taner Akçamի հետ։
This year's Knights of Vartan 94th Avak Tahlij and the 72nd Kerakouyn Zhoghov Convocation took place in New York, which then concluded with a banquet hosted by Mamagonian Lodge No. 12 and Anahid Otiag No. 3. Members of the Knights and Daughters of Vartan, as well as other distinguished guests, including His Eminence Archbishop Khajak Barsamyan and the Armenian Ambassador to the UN, Mr. Garan Nazarian, were present at the banquet.
Կցանկանայի շնորհակալություն հայտնեի Վարդանանց ասպետներին եւ դուստրերին այս երեկո այստեղ գտնվելու հնարավորության համար եւ իմ երախտագիտության խոսքն եմ ուզում ուղղել տարիների վեր կատարած աշխատանքի համար այս կազմակերպությունը բավականին ակտիվ է վերհանելու համար հայկական հիմնախնդիրները մասնավորապես հայոց ցեղասպանության ճանաչման ուղղված ջանքերը մեծապես գնահատելի են ուրախ եմ որ այսօր առիթ պիտի լինի նաեւ անդրադարձ կատարելու այդ հիմնահարցերին եւ կցանկանայի մաղթել հետագայում բեռնավոր աշխատանք իբարս հայ ժողովրդի եւ ի բարօրություն Ամերիկայի համայնքի։
Ուրախ ենք, որ Վարդանանց ասպետներու եւ Թստեր Վարդանանց ընդհանուր ժողովը այս տարի տեղի կունենա Նյու Յորք քաղաքի մեջ։ Մեզ համար մեծ ուրախություն է սիրով ողջունել բոլոր մասնակիցները, Վարդանանց ասպետները եւ Թստեր Վաստանանք, որոնք տարիների վեր շատ կարևոր առաքելություն է որ կկատարեն մեր ասկային կյանքերս Վարդանանց ասպետները եւ Թստեր Վարդանանք իրենց գործունեությամբ կփորձեն կենթանի բահել Վարդանի եւ իր հետևորդներու ոգին հավատքի, ասկի, սիրո, նվիրումի ոգին եւ պատմությունը ցույց կտա որ անցնող ավելի քան 90 տարիներու ընթացքին Վարդանանց ասպետները եւ Թստեր Վարդանանք թե Ամերիկայի մեր քաղաքի կյանքերս եւ մանավանդ Հայաստանի անկախացում վերջ հայրենի կյանքերս Արցախի մեջ շատ կարեւոր գործ է որ աշխատանք է որ գտանին թե մշակութային դաստիարակչական եւ թե այլ մարզերներս կգնահատենք իրենց կատարած կարեւոր առաքելությունը գործենք իրենց եւ գաղութենք որբեսի ոգին Վարդանանց միջ կենթանի վրա այս կարևոր ասկային հաստատության մեջ Վարդանանց ասպետներու եւ Թստեր Վարդանանց.
One of the special guests participating in the convocation was Executive Director Zivi Kitchell of the Rahul Wallenberg Foundation.
We're very happy today at the banquet of the grand banquet of the Knights and Daughters of Vartan, which is a national fraternal organization, to have with us the Executive Director of the Rahul Wallenberg Foundation. And I would like him to tell us what the Rahul Wallenberg Foundation is.
My name is Zivi Kitchell. I'm represent the Rahul Wallenberg Foundation. The headquarters are here in New York. We have offices in Buenos Aires, in Israel and Germany. Wallenberg was a Swedish diplomat that saved in the Holocaust in Hungary about 100,000 Jews. And as a second generation of Holocaust survivors, I'm aware actually about the genocide and actually what happened to the Armenian people during the genocide. We started to do a lot of activity in Armenia and Turkey, and I think it's about time that actually people will know about the genocide, and this book actually we've decided, since the book's actually it's about the genocide and about trying to reconcile everything between Armenia and Turkey. So that's the reason we have decided to actually to give the book, to donate the book, to give to all the attended here in the event.
The evening began with the welcoming remarks from the General Chairman Antanik Platyan, followed by an invocation of His Eminence Archbishop Khajak Barsamyan. Mamigonian Tahlij, number 12 of the Knights of Vartan, was founded on June 9, 1927. Throughout the years, under the leadership of many elected Avak Sparabeds, the Knights of Vartan undertook many projects, including the building of St. Vartan Cathedral in New York, with the adjoining diocesan house, school, and other institutions. They have also organized the annual April 24th Armenian Genocide commemoration in Times Square, among many other projects. Anahid Otyag, number 3, was established on February 2, 1935. Throughout its inception, Anahid Otyag has been active in helping needy Armenian students, Armenian churches, Armenian schools, and hospitals. The organization is the embodiment of the wonderful virtues of Armenian womanhood, and they have contributed to the well-being of the Armenian people and spirit. Avak Durui Agnes Sahagyan, during the banquet, spoke on behalf of Anahid Otyag. Avak Sparabed, Professor Denis Papazian, made this year's scholarship announcements and introduced 2 notable individuals who received the Man of the Year Humanitarian Awards. First honoree was Rajib Zarakolu, a Turkish human rights activist. Since he was unable to attend, his son received the award on his behalf. Second honoree was Dr. Taner Akçam, a scholar, author, and a longtime outspoken advocate for the Armenian genocide. Dr. Akçam was brought to the United States by Professor Denis Papazian, then a director of the Armenian Research Center at the University of Michigan. He is currently at Clark University as the head of the Armenian Genocide Studies program. This year, the seated Avak Sparabed, Professor Denis Papazian, passed his position to the newly elected Nigoas Atanesian. The convocation was over, but the important work of the Knights and Daughters of Vartan continues with major projects for the Armenian community, be they on the local or national level.
Taner, thank you very much for this interview. I'm sure our audience is as excited as I am to have this opportunity to speak with you. And before we get to this very interesting and important book, historically important book, politically important book, I want to speak a little bit about your biography, because it's quite interesting and quite fascinating. Your quest to speak about the rights of minorities in Turkey has begun much earlier. In the 1970s, you've been very active, participated in demonstrations, for instance, against Turkish occupation of Cyprus, about Kurds' right within Turkey, certainly had arrests, had prosecutions, and most importantly, of course, particularly for our audience, your involvement in the issue of Armenian genocide. What made you be interested in the rights of minorities within Turkey?
I think to seek for justice, this is very simple. And the other important factor, I assume my father, he was a very active member of Turkish Democratic Movement. He was second president of Turkish Teachers Union. This is the trades union of Turkey teachers. Those days in Turkey or in Europe generally, it was unusual if you were not a part of such a movement. This is called 68 movement, 68 generation. This was basically a students' movement, and I found myself in that movement. This was not a conscious choice of myself.
I have spoken to several individuals of Turkish descent or Turkish citizens, and a lot of them told us that they simply do not know the history of Armenian genocide at all. It is not taught in schools. It's certainly a very taboo topic to speak within the political system. How did you learn about Armenian genocide? What triggered you to look deeper into the subject?
I think I was one of those Turks that you are referring now, because in my early age, when I was politically also very active, I had no idea about Armenian genocide, or I even didn't know that there are Armenians living in Turkey. I learned all this when I was in Germany. After my escape from prison in Turkey, I was arrested 1976 and escaped from prison 1977 and ended up in Germany, and I got my political asylum in Germany and became again activist in basically human rights field. During my research, first time I encountered the massacres during Abdülhamit period. There was a resistance in me also, I have to add this also. This resistance is something that's very particular, I think, to Turkish people. You know, you had the feeling that something wrong there, and you don't know what, and you don't want to touch it. So the feeling that I had was simply, you know, it's very complicated. And when you get interested in the topic, you ask around, and the first reaction that you hear, yeah, they killed us, we killed them, stories. And it's better, we have other stories now. Something happened, it's now 100 years away, and don't get even involved in that issue. And this was my first interest. First, really curiosity to learn what really happened, but on the other side, you know, 100 years ago. And the more I get involved, the more it became a part of my life.
You have written extensively on the subject of Armenian genocide, both in your essays. You've written A Shameful Act, of course, a well-known book, and now this new book that just came out, The Young Turks' Crime Against Humanity. What makes you write these books? Why do you think it is important to tell this story?
I consider myself an human rights activist, even though I'm not so active in the political scene. But as a human rights activist, or somebody believes in human dignity and human rights, I'm very much convinced that Turkey cannot be a democratic country without acknowledging this historic wrongdoing. This is my conviction. Without facing history, without acknowledging historic wrongdoings, there could be no peace, no stability, no democracy and human rights in the Middle East.
How do you see the relationship between people of Armenia and people in Turkey developing in the context of Armenian genocide, in the context of recognition of Armenian genocide?
I can repeat only what Hrant used to say all the time. Hrant used to say that Turkish authorities in Ankara consciously closing the doors, the boundaries between Armenia and Turkey. And he used to say, because if they both people meet each other, start speaking with each other, problem would be solved.
I agree.
And this is the reason why they keep the border closed. This is number one, important. I am also convinced that if they open the border and normalize the relations, the solution would come very early than they expect. There is not much hindrance in front of reconciliation between both people and recognition of something. I cannot say that they will recognize the Armenian genocide as state, but at least society, in society's mind and heart, people would acknowledge this horrendous crime in the past. I'm convinced in that. This is the reason why they maybe block the process. How we came to that point, I think I have to emphasize again and again Hrant Dink's assassination. His assassination contributed more than his lifetime, I think, efforts.
Yeah, unfortunately, tragic.
This is very tragic, and my belief that he knew, as somebody knows Hrant for a long time, spent hours with him, I think he knew that his assassination, his death, would bring both societies more together than his being alive. I can tell you only one anecdote. It was January 5th, 2007, 10 days before his assassination, 10 or 13, 14 days. I was leaving for Europe, and I was sitting in his office, and he knew that his target, and he knew that he's going to be assassinated. And as his friend, I said, I have to repeat now, I told him, Hrant, you are an idiot. If I were you, I would leave next day. I mean, there will be assassination, you know already, and you are the #1 target here in the country. They will first assassinate you. He said that, no, I don't want. Why? if I go out, he said, I will never come back. And this is what I don't want. He knew that if he left Turkey, he would have not be able to come back. So he stayed, and knowing that there is an imminent threat in his life, he showed me the threat emails and others. And I think indeed somewhere he believed that he could contribute more. And indeed, everybody should know, the day of assassination was a turning point in Turkish history. Until Hrant's assassination, people like myself, or those who in favor of facing history, recognizing of historic wrongdoings, we were really in a defensive position, psychologically defensive. They were attacking us. We were persecuted. 301, Orhan Pamuk, the others. We were really dragged from one court to another, and we were target of the public opinion also, the newspapers, the generals, political parties. Everybody was targeting us. You know, after Hrant's assassination, it turns around. We have, I think I'm not wrong to argue, you can ask others, we have the overhand now in Turkey.
It's interesting to see examples in history when heroic individuals like Hrant Dink, in a heroic act of self-sacrifice, if I may put it that way, do change the course of history. I myself, and I'm sure all of our viewers, consider you a heroic man as well. For your voice in this historically important subject, you've been prosecuted, you've been threatened, your life has been in danger. I know that you went to Hrant Dink's funeral against all the dangers that you were facing yourself. What drives you? What drives you to overcome all these hardships and speak loudly about this subject?
Number one is, after Hrant's assassination, there is no such a question. It's over. We owe this individual something, and we even never thought about it. We should keep his legacy alive. This is because, very simple actually, it was 1.5 million after, plus one. Yeah. Hrant was a remembrance to us for the genocide. As a human being, I'm scared most of the time also. But there are certain moments in your life and you ask why I'm doing this. And my answer is, why I'm doing is very simple. You know, if I stop doing it, then I deny my being a human being. Because somebody wants me to stop to act as a human being. What is the difference of a human being then from the animal? That we think and we talk and we write. And somebody comes and tells to you, you should stop thinking, and you should stop talking, and you should stop writing. This angers me immensely. I can't describe it. This is against my being a simple human being. I cannot accept this. Have
you been in Armenia in a period of April 24th, near the date of April 25th? Because you know
yes.
they do this big...
Yes.
And you witnessed...
yes, twice.
Twice. And it's a rather somber...
Yes,
powerful,
yes, very strong. And at once I was with Hrant also in 2005. And every time when I visit Armenia, I go there because I know Haik Demoyan, the director of the museum, is a very close friend of mine. And it is sort of very important for me to go and to put some flowers there.
Just to come back quickly to the book, The Young Turks' Crime Against Humanity, available on Amazon.
Yes.
We highly encourage our audience to go online, purchase the book, read it, learn the history, recommend it to their friends. And it was a true honor, sir. Thank you so much for this.
I thank you very much. Great, thanks.